Have you ever heard the phrase, the setting itself becomes a character? You might have. It refers to a phenomenon in literature where the setting of a story is so unique or memorable that audiences create a bond with the world the characters inhabit as well as the characters themselves. Think, for example, Gotham City. Every interpretation of Gotham just oozes style and atmosphere. The city itself is so synonymous with Batman that it might as well be its own character in the story with its own arc. And of course, Gotham is undoubtedly one of the most iconic fictional cities and places of all time. Even non-Batman fans will definitely recognise it, at least by name. While researching for this video, I asked my friends and family what the first thing is that comes to mind when I say a setting that feels like a character. The number one answer?
Welcome home.
And I have to admit, it's also the first thing I thought of too. There are millions of people all around the world of all ages and walks of life that consider Hogwarts like a second home. I mean, my siblings and I might as well have grown up there. Much like so many others, we lived and breathed Harry Potter growing up. And as the characters got older and matured, so did we. At the centre of it all is that old castle. Ask any fan. I'd wager they'd all say they've dreamed of being sat in those halls, walking the castle's corridors, sleeping under its roof. Which is why visuals like this are so heartbreaking. The Battle of Hogwarts is kind of hard to watch. It feels like the destruction of the home you grew up in. It feels like the death of an innocent, the death of a character. While researching for this video, I also asked another question. What is a fictional setting that not only feels like a character, but a villain? The number one answer this time? Well, that's interesting. I guess I've never thought of it like that. What I mean by this question is, what is a setting in literature that not only feels like a character, but a secondary antagonist in the story that poses a constant threat to the characters? So today, we'll explore this idea through the lens of 4 movies. These examples are connected by 2 things. They all feature a setting that's a consistent threat to the main characters, and they all take place in the desert. We'll start with a recent example in our first film.
I can see your dog, too.
Listen, Agape!
I'm sure by now most of you are familiar with Frank Herbert's Dune, most likely through Denis Villeneuve's masterpiece adaptation. Today we'll focus on 2021's Part 1, as it has a much heavier focus on the desert and the geography of the planet Arrakis. However, if you're not familiar with Dune, we'll go through the basics. Dune is a sci-fi series that spans thousands of years. It's about politics, religion, war, nature, espionage, backstabbing, and plans within plans. The series centres around the planet Arrakis that has been a point of galactic contention as long as the Great Houses have been around. The planet is home to the Fremen, tiny mice, colossal sandworms, and most importantly, spice. A psychedelic drug found on Arrakis that is a byproduct of the occupation of the planet by the aforementioned sandworms. Most importantly, it allows ships to safely travel through space. Spice is the reason why these great houses are always on the edge or already in conflict. It is, after all, the most valuable substance in the galaxy. And power over spice is power. Antagonists and enemies are around every corner in the world of Dune. But there is one who threatens any human being who would dare to walk on her surface. Of course, I'm talking about Arrakis itself. Much like the locations mentioned earlier, the deserts of Arrakis have become quite iconic. It's undoubtedly memorable, and it has a near constant presence in the story. Unlike Hogwarts, I don't get that warm feeling when I see Arrakis. It puts me on edge. You know those movie villains that just make you anxious? Those characters that are so intimidating they just make you restless? That's Arrakis for me. Any scene indoors or on another planet feels like a respite from that anxiety of thinking any character could die at any minute just by spending too long outside or walking at a consistent rhythm. I mean, every single thing about Arrakis is designed to kill you. The sun's trying to cook you alive for one. You want water? Well, forget about it. You're better off recycling your own or take it from a corpse. Travelling on foot? Better not attract a sandworm. You could use a vehicle, but look out for the sandstorms strong enough to cut through metal. Or what about shields? Oh right, they attract sandworms and send them into a frenzy. Living on Arrakis sucks! Survival is possible. It's been done for generations. But if you're unprepared, Arrakis will swallow you whole. So, Arrakis definitely feels like a character. The sandworms themselves are so intertwined with Arrakis that they feel like an extension of the planet, an extension of the raw power of nature versus arrogant humans who would try to rule over it. Arrakis is revered. It's the most consistent threat to all characters in Dune. And like most iconic movie villains, it's the star of the show. Our next movie... What is that noise? The 2015 masterpiece Mad Max Fury Road is the fourth movie in the franchise and was the culmination of the journey that the wasteland of Mad Max has gone on. From not too dissimilar to our world today, a bit wastelandy, to this.
What a lovely day!
The wasteland of Mad Max has always been a little enigmatic in its origin and lore. Fury Road is no exception to this, bar the few hints of the world beyond.
We're not to blame!
Then who killed the world?
So let's take a look at what we do know. Well, water, much like in Dune, is probably the most valuable substance on the planet. Along with fuel, of course. Or should I say, gasoline.
Gasoline!
Those who control the water might as well be gods in the eyes of the common folk.
Do not, my friends, become addicted to water. It will take hold of you, and you will resent its absence.
Unlike Dune, however, where Arrakis has a tight ecosystem that gets by just fine without human intervention, the ecosystem in Mad Max, at least from what we can tell, is almost completely dead and requires giant greenhouses to grow plants effectively. The environment is entirely hostile to all life. The journey Furiosa and co go on through hell and back is in pursuit of the Green Place, or what's left of it. You see, Furiosa thinks that the Green Place is the last bastion of nature on Earth, a place to rebuild, a place to grow, in all senses of the word. But as we find out, it's gone. Dead already. She was chasing a dream, an echo of the old world. You see, their fight is, well, against Immortan Joe and the War Parties, sure, but it's also a defiance against their dead world that's dragging all life down with it. As we know, Mad Max is violent. I mean, almost every human character partakes in more brutality than people like you and I will ever see with our own eyes. Not only are the characters battered, bruised, and sunburnt, they're also stuck. They didn't come to the wastes in search of fortune or a political obligation. This is their home. Their only home. They have nothing but the desert. So their only choice is to live in that brutality forever, or rise up from the dust and build something new.
Are you alright? What the fuck, man?
I pissed myself.
2005's underrated psychological thriller Jarhead, that depicts 1991's Gulf War from the perspective of a sniper Swarford, might be the perfect example of settings as antagonists. Because can you tell me who the antagonist of Jarhead is? Enemy soldiers? Well, there aren't actually any that appear on screen, unless you count these two officers that you can see through the... Oh. Okay, what about Saddam Hussein? Spoilers, he's also not in the movie. You know where this is going by now. The desert is not only an antagonist to all characters in the film, it's also the main villain. As soon as Swafford and the Marines hit the tarmac and Desert Shield commences, they have nothing to do.
Bureaucrats have a lot of jawboning to do. So for now, our current mission is to protect the oil fields of our good friends in the Kingdom of Salt until further notice. So you will hydrate, you will train, you will adjust to this desert, and you'll hydrate some more. And you will be ready. You will maintain a constant state of suspicious alertness, and one day soon, Saddam Hussein is gonna regret pulling this sorry shit.
It's drilled into them to be bloodthirsty, to celebrate going to war. This is not what they expected. The main characters are all ticking time bombs under the desert sun, and it's only a matter of time until they all crack. For example, in this scene, Swafford and Troy are about to get their first kill. This is what they were made for. This is what they were told that they should want.
I was hooked.
Fire. Hit.
I wanted the pink mist.
And when it's ripped away from them, it starts to feel like the months that they've spent wasting away in the desert has been for nothing.
We have a perfect shot, just let us take it.
Negative.
We have permission from the Colonel, sir.
Hitman 45, Hitman 45. This is Bravo 4.
God damn it, he's dead anyway! Just let him fucking do it!
You are way out of line, Corporal.
What difference does it make?
Give him back the
If it doesn't make a fucking difference, why the fuck do you have to do it?
Because we have the goddamn shot! That's why we're here!
Give it a fucking hand.
Fucking stop! Fucking stop! Stop it! That's my kill! Stop! That is my kill! That is my kill! You fucking desk jockey! It's a fucking prick! You don't know what we go through now! It isn't down! Let go of me! Just fucking let go of me!
I mentioned earlier that the world of Mad Max is a dead one. The deserts of Kuwait, on the other hand, feel like they're dying throughout the film. Not only is the desert filled with death, The infamous oil fires are depicted in the film's third act, and much like the real footage of the Gulf War, it feels like you're watching the desert, the world, bleeding.
Bet you knew! Oh, shut your trap. That shit's poison. Come on.
The earth is bleeding.
And through those black clouds and raging fires, these Marines are stuck, trudging through the sand under oil raining from the sky, being soaked in the blood of the earth.
Covered in its fucking oil.
By the end of the film, the bloodthirsty Marines who once celebrated their deployment to get some action now celebrate the war's end and being able to finally leave the desert and forget about this whole mess. But the legacy of the desert is not so easily forgotten. Swarford attempts to return to normal life, but it'll always haunt him. Staff Sergeant Sykes never really left that life. And as for Troy, well, for some, being unfulfilled and denied all that you've been told you should want, all that you know, is just too much. So far, all of these examples of deserts as antagonists have all manifested themselves into different themes within their respective stories. Dunes could represent mistreatment and abuse of indigenous cultures, and humans' negative effect on nature. You could say Mad Max's desert-shaped villain is a metaphor for global warming and the aftermath of a theoretical nuclear war. And the bleeding sands of Jarhead, sending the soldiers mad, is quite clearly the military-industrial complex's treatment of soldiers and veterans. It's the negative effect of successful propaganda, its obsession.
Fire. 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 Hit.
Our final film's desert can be interpreted as a few different things, but there's one for definite.
Der kom der weg. Der orker ikke kjede. Det er en slags ting. Imiterer en mikkjel. Det er ikke virkelig. Kom der vekk, idioter!
The 1982 undeniable masterpiece, The Thing, based off of the book Who Goes There, is the final film we'll take a look at today. And you might say, hey, I thought this was about the desert. Well, did you know that Antarctica is actually the largest desert on Earth? I mean, just look at it. It covers 5.5 million square miles, and of course, it's the coldest too. One of the main themes of John Carpenter's magnum opus is paranoia. The kind you get when you're utterly trapped in isolation. The fear factor comes in when you know there's no escape and no rescue. So, who's the antagonist of The Thing? Well, everyone? But the blistering cold of Antarctica has sealed the fates of every man there as soon as they arrived. The titular Thing has been lying in wait, making the ice its home. It's claimed its territory. And now, like a Venus flytrap, any human who would dare to go near it is in the Thing's house now. Similar to Dune, it feels like nature doesn't want you there poking around. So, in the desert, where stepping outside puts a timer on your life, how could you not resent the environment for being out to kill you? So, your only option is to stay indoors, trapped.
Bishop to knight 4. My move, knight to rook 3.
There's something about being snowed in, isn't there? Cabin fever starts to set in. You become paranoid, irritable, time starts to distort, and you hallucinate. Isolation could send anyone mad. I mean, there's an argument to be made here that the crew of Thule Station and Outpost 31 just lost their minds and ended up killing each other and burning down their respective research stations. If they could communicate with the outside world, who would believe them? What? There's an alien here that creates perfect, indistinguishable copies of human beings, and also we've destroyed all of our evidence. You'll just have to trust us, even though you can't trust any of us. I don't think anyone's gonna buy that. Before we wrap up today, I have an honourable mention that didn't quite make the cut. That's the underrated 2004 film Hidalgo, starring Viggo Mortensen in the most dangerous race in the world. Because whenever I think of this movie, that I watched so much as a kid, I always picture the scenes of him alone, braving the elements with only his horse, the movie's namesake, to keep him company through thick and thin. I think of that sandstorm that stuck with me and terrified me as a kid, and I think of the journey. Because in the end, that's what it's all about, isn't it? The journey, the struggle, the survival, and the memory of looking out to that haunting horizon knowing you are at nature's mercy now. Thank you for watching.
Mm-hmm.